Okay, here we are. We're back with the last one. Finally, I'm all caught up. August 2023. We're going to do good news tidbits. It's important to visit the good news. You know, the other column is fine. It's the one on the back there. I have two guests with me that prefer not to be on camera today, which is fine. I have Prince Vince over here and Firefly Gamer. I don't know if he's still...
Usernames.
No, it's fine. No,
Come
it's fine.
Vincent and Zoe on either side of me, but they prefer not to be on camera. But we're going to read the good news together because I think it's important. There's a lot of doom and gloom in the world, as I was saying on the last episode, but it's important to look at the positive things that are going on in the world, the optimistic stuff. So hopefully the camera's picking up on it. You might hear some comments coming from the angel and the devil on my shoulders.
Me?
You guys can decide which one's which.
I'm the devil.
Sometimes you switch places. I think. But anyway, good news tidbits for anybody that doesn't know. Anyone that's not familiar with Druthers, I guess, we should probably go over that. It's a good thing. Druthers is all about truth, love, and freedom. For some reason on that one, like I was saying last time, the truth, love, and freedom is not there.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's like
this is the latest issue, right?
This one is August.
Oh, so which one's this? This is the one from July.
Because I didn't do July, but now I'm all caught up. So.
Okay.
So August 2023. Normally we do, well, I shouldn't say normally. We do two columns, Absurdity Observer on the back. We look at the cartoon. We read through those, which we've already done. You can tune into the last episode if you want to see that. That's just all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world. But you have to balance that out with good news tidbits, which if you compare the two, crazy stuff going on in the world, good news tidbits. So unfortunately, they're still not balanced. There's way crazier, nutty things going on in the world right now compared to the good news, unfortunately. But there is good news. You remember that Some Good News with John Krasinski, the guy from The Office? I love that. Some Good News. It was when the whole pandemic thing first started. He was sharing, one of the only ones that was not all about doom and gloom, but was sharing actual good news and cool things that were going on.
Yeah, because usually on a lot of news stations, they just kind of report things that make you scared, right? Like, there was a shooting here, or this bank got robbed, or, you know, this country is, giving this other country weapons and bombs.
It kind of makes it seem that, like, that's all that's happening.
Yeah,
it's just all murders and theft and war, and there's so much more going on in the world. So many more good things are happening. We just need to talk about it, look at it together. So here's the first bullet. There's, let's see, 9 of them, it looks like. A terminally ill woman in Alberta has likely returned to the organ transplant list after being denied life-saving surgery over her COVID-19 jab status. And on the Absurdity Observer, we saw that two people, I think, got denied surgeries because they didn't want to get the jab, which is crazy. People that were dying, that were going to die otherwise.
Basically, basically what that is, they're forcing you to be the subject of an experiment, right?
Essentially.
Or else they just won't save your life. They'll just let you die.
Pretty much. This one is about good news. So after a Supreme Court dismissal, so in this case the Supreme Court said the exact opposite of what they said last time. Miss Sheila Annette Lewis launched a new lawsuit against Alberta Health Services for medical malpractice. In an interview with Rebel News, her legal representation announced a breaking development. The parties involved have now signed a confidential agreement that Miss Lewis is satisfied with. So they've settled out of court, it looks like. Or something. They've come to some agreement. I think that it just took a little while for her to get justice, but she finally got it. Good for her. Hope more people get the same thing.
Yeah.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau,
Trudeau is correct.
He was loudly booed during an appearance to open the 2023 North American Indigenous Games in Halifax. Why would he open that? this isn't the first time that Trudeau was heckled by a crowd at a First Nations event. While at a 2022 event in Kamloops, BC, the Prime Minister was beset by Indigenous protesters. So that's probably not a new thing for him. He's probably used to it. I'm sure he has a thick enough skull. He's got a thick skull too, but he's got a thick enough skin that he probably deals with that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But he has no business opening anything for any Indigenous culture. Like, that's crazy.
Someone like with the least experiment, with the least experience.
Well, he's also clearly got some prejudice or racist blood in him based on the stuff he's done in the past. So.
Yeah.
A study has found that Canadians' interest in purchasing an electric vehicle has declined by 13% in the past year, despite the Trudeau government pushing these cars as part of its net zero agenda. I think that's because people are realizing that it's BS. Electric cars are just as bad for the environment, for the planet, for the resources as fossil fuel machines.
What powers those cars? Electricity. And how is electricity made? Right. By burning coal and other fossil fuels.
It's just like we were talking about. It's all about critical thinking. Anyone who's going to engage in critical thinking will come to the conclusion that it's not really any safer or better for the environment.
Because you have to think, why exactly is it better for the environment if it's electric?
What's happening is, like we saw in the last video, the government has given away some $31 billion or something like that of taxpayer dollars to these electric car plants. One of them, they gave $16 billion to $14 billion, and then they gave them an extra $2 billion. I don't want to revisit everything from the last video, but it's connected to this. And then this other company, like a little child, was like, hey, why are you giving that company a bunch of money? If you don't give us money too, we're going to shut down our production of these electric car plants. So then the government had to give them another $16 billion. So like over $30 billion to these two companies, one of them because they whined about it.
You know what? Corporations and companies and government, it's just like pretend.
Well, they call it
playing whenever you're a little kid.
They call it political theater for a reason. It's theater. It's make-believe. So a study has found... Oh, we read that. A recent ruling by the Canadian Armed Forces Grievance Board found that the Canadian Armed Forces mandatory COVID-19 vaccination policy violated the charter rights of a member who was released for refusing to get vaccinated. No duh. I think everybody knows that at this point. That was violating all kinds of things. The Supreme Court has ruled that race-conscious admission policies of Harvard College and the University of North Carolina violate the Constitution, bringing an end to affirmative action in higher education, in a decision that will reverberate across campuses nationwide. It's so strange how in one bullet the charter's being used against them, and then in the next bullet the Supreme Court and the government are using the charter in their favor. So, which one is it? It's like they use it whenever they need it, but then they deflect or call away from the instances where they themselves violate the charter and various bills. It's like we make the rules so we can break them. Well, luckily that's not how law actually works.
Right.
Otherwise, these corporations would just getting away with anything they wanted.
That's how the legal system works, but I think everyone knows, whether they want to admit it or not, that that system, it's absolute garbage. The lawful system does not allow that.
And what else is garbage is these so-called higher education institutes. They're just informing people and turning them into drones, basically, or they're being groomed to have very specific roles in very specific companies doing very specific things, usually not good things, not productive things that are helpful for everybody, just certain corporations. Anyway, the U.S. House Committee on Appropriations has approved a bill, FY 2024 State Foreign Operations and Related Programs Appropriations that, if enacted, would axe government funding for the World Health Organization. Hey, that's good. Besides putting the WHO's funding on the chopping block, the bill also proposes to terminate the government's engagement with the World Economic Forum and to lay down a prohibition on funding to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, the EcoHealth Alliance, and gain-of-function research. Furthermore, the bill takes a stand against government misinformation and disinformation programs. Wow. I never thought I would see the day where a bill had so many good things in it. I hope they pay that bill. Amidst the growing tension over financial institutions in the UK, freezing funds and blacklisting customers and businesses with certain viewpoints, the debanking wave in the UK may finally be coming to an end. The UK Treasury has announced that it will be stepping in with regulations to ensure that freedom from debanking is safeguarded. I'm not sure what debanking is, but I can imagine what that means. And they're going to try everything they can to stop it like that.
Well, debanking kind of sounds like some kind of robbery.
I think it sounds, well, robbery maybe in the sense that you're taking money away from the banks, but it sounds like debanking is, it's like defunding the bank maybe, or stop.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you stop using the bank. I'm not sure what it means. I'm just guessing, but a lot of people are going to realize that the banks and these other corporations and the public service corporations, they're scared right now. They're desperate, so they're trying to do anything they can to hold on to their customers and their slaves, and they don't want to let go. So they're going to fight, and the more they fight desperately, we know that their time is at an end. An international cycling organization, Union Cyclist International, issued a statement saying that it will impose a ban on anyone who was born male competing in an all-women's sports event categories. In all women's sports event categories. So all of them. That's good for them.
There's a lot of good news.
That is good news for sure. Sure, a lot of women are happy about that.
Yeah.
Barclays Bank has agreed to make a payment of £21,500 plus legal fees to the Core Issues Trust, a Christian ministry situated in Northern Ireland. The payment is intended as compensation after Barclays' sudden closure of the ministry's account in July 2020 due to pressure from the LGBT plus community. Okay, it's kind of a small amount, but plus legal fees, I guess that could be a significant amount. And here's the last one already. We're already almost through the good news tidbits, but there is a lot of good news. You're right, Vince. After being called a racist for declaring that she would prefer to be called a woman instead of a birthing person.
What? How is that racist?
I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense.
A new term meant to be inclusive to both women and transgendered men in the abortion debate. Wow, that's loaded with so many different issues. Anna Kasparian, co-host of the popular left-wing show The Young Turks, takes the red pill. During a 2-hour live stream on the Stitch and Adam show, Anna apologized for having been wrong about the number of topics and now admits that puberty blockers for children can be irreversible. The vaccine mandates were wrong, and most importantly, acknowledged her role in the furthering division between the left and the right. Anna cited her trust in mainstream news as the reason she got so many things wrong. And that's an honest mistake, considering how strong these marketing campaigns are and these news outlets, how hard they push their information on people. Anyone can fall for that.
Well, especially children. Right?
Good for her.
It's being pushed in schools.
Good for her for standing up for that. Yeah, for sure. And I'm proud of people like that who can admit they made a mistake and they realized that they did some damage, but then they did something to fix it. To say, I don't want to keep going down this road. I'm not going to double down. I'm going to admit I screwed up, but I'm taking accountability for my mistake. Now I'm going to help to fix things and connect people and get them together and steer them in the right direction instead of into these pit holes of deception and what have you.
It's way better to just, be honest and just apologize than to just keep lying over and over and over again.
We don't all want to act like these governments do, right? Because that's what they do. But we don't want to be like that. Actual humans, the men and women of the planet, are not like that. We're feeling creatures. We have emotions. We have spirit. We have empathy for our fellow man.
With the government, entities, they're just a faceless thing.
Well, it's like you said, it's a game. It's pretend, but they play it. They play their LARP. They're LARPing basically. They're LARPing so hard that they convince themselves and others even that it's real. But it's not. It's so sad because a lot of people's whole lives are removed or deprived of them because they get caught up in this little fantasy, which is not even a good fantasy. Like, if you're going to indulge your life in a fantasy, why would it be a bureaucratic, corporate, legal fantasy? That sounds sick. That sounds like Douglas Adams kind of stuff.
They're basically just bullies.
Yeah. Well, we wouldn't tolerate it on the schoolyard. We're not going to tolerate it in our private life, that's for sure. I got to read you guys this one because I laughed so hard. I know I'm going backwards here, but we got a little bit of time left. I'm going back to the Absurdity Observer for August 2023. I got to read this to my kids because it was so hilarious. I couldn't even get through it. Okay, listen to this. I'm going to have to get my composure here.
Okay. You know what? I'll read it for you.
No, I don't want you to. I want to read this one.
Alright then.
It's going to sound weird coming from you.
Alright then.
A charity that provides guidance to healthcare professionals is asking medics to refer to a vagina as a bonus hole.
Oh.
Or a front hole to avoid upsetting transgender men. In a guide for healthcare professionals published online, Joe's Cervical Cancer Trust suggests that using these terms to avoid causing one with...
Oh my god, so what if you're offended?
Let me finish.
Chill out.
Let me finish. She suggests using these terms to avoid causing one without a vagina to feel hurt or distressed. So you don't have, I'm sorry to tell you, but you don't have a vagina anymore. You have a bonus hole or a front hole.
Oh,
but see, like I mentioned before, they don't talk about back holes, which everyone has. See, no matter what it is, whether it's talking about buttholes or front holes or whatever, or our color of our skin or where we live or a demographic or the sports team we root for or whatever stupid thing that divides us. They're not talking about the one thing that we do have, which is we all have a back hole, right? Right. Exactly. There's a lot of things about us, no matter what your sexual preference is, no matter what gender you identify with. There's a lot of things that we have in common. More things, I would say, than we have different.
Like blood flowing through us,
exactly.
Different. A lot of us have the same senses and.
We're made of the same stuff.
Yeah, eat.
And we come from the same place, I would say. Now, I would argue, my personal view, which is my truth and the truth, I believe. It's more than just a belief. Anyway, we all have spirit as well. We all have something that makes us special. We all have a soul. We all have an essence that makes us who we are. And it's not an ego. It's a beautiful part of something greater, which is nature, which is God, which is the universe, whatever you want to call it. We're all a little piece of that. We're all trying to get along. We're all trying to be happy. We all want to live in peace. And nobody wakes up in the morning and is like, how can I cause conflict in my life? How can I go to war with myself and other people? I don't think anyone consciously wants to do that. They just find themselves in that situation sometimes. But more than anything, we're all very similar. We all have the same worries, many of the same fears. We all have the same wants and desires and needs. Everybody needs to breathe air. Everybody needs to drink water and eat good food to survive and to thrive.
Why can't we all just be called humans?
Yeah. It's a human race after all. It's not the black race or the white race or the brown race or the purple race. It's the human race.
You know what? Don't for example, don't call yourself you know, a black, gay, transgender man. Just call yourself a human, because that's what you really are.
We have enough labels. We don't need any more.
Yeah, they just confuse people.
Human encompasses everything. Human also is what allows you to be feeling, empathetic creature. When you say, I'm human, right? If I made a mistake, I'm only human. You're saying I'm humble. I'm open to change. I'm open to bettering myself and helping to better the world. Anybody can do that, regardless of their background, how much money they make, you know, if they're leftist, rightist, blue, red. None of it matters. Anyway, there's lots of good news in the world, as you can see, and don't give up. If you're fighting a hard battle right now, if you're having a hard time with any of the stuff that we covered in the Absurdity Observer, or if you're still struggling with some of the things that maybe covered in the Good News Tidbits, well, buck up and have faith, because these people got justice. There's nothing saying that you can't get justice too. Everyone can get justice, and I hope and pray and send everyone needs it, those vibes, those good intentions to fight those battles. We're with you. If you guys have good news you want to share, do that in the comments. Let me know. I'd love to hear it. We can't share enough good news. Yeah. Anything else to say?
Not much. No. We
Right.
covered a lot.
People a few words, but yeah. Thanks for joining me on this one. It was fun. We should do this again. Maybe next time you guys can be actually in the video. See. Anyway, thank you for watching, my friends. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time for another, probably it'll be the September Absurdity Observer at that point, and Good News Tidbits. So have a good month, and we'll see you in September.
Goodbye.
Bye.